Lewis Hamilton. Why is he so divisive? Welcome back, Formula One fans, to another video. You cannot scroll through the comments section on any Formula One related YouTube, Facebook or Twitter account without seeing two types of comments. The Lewis fans, singing his praises, calling him the GOAT, that's greatest of all time if, like me, you had to work it out, and laying on the smugness with every win. And the Lewis haters, who argue the wins are the result of favouritism or just the car, not the driver, and criticising Lewis for his political views, tax receipts, fashion or attitude. I will preface this by saying I'm relatively indifferent to Lewis. As a Brit, I quite like seeing him win, and while I'm not sure he'd be someone I'd want to hang out with, and vice versa I expect, he presents himself as considerate, well-meaning, and using his platform to champion important issues, and I respect that.
So I've been coming here for about 11 years. We're about to pull up at the track, and there's this woman that there's so many people that volunteer, and so many workers that come and help to make everyone's weekend special. And there's this one woman I see all the time, and she's always got a smile on her face. I think she smiles more than anyone in the whole track. So I just bought her some chocolates and coffee. It's a bit like, the one random act of kindness a day goes a long way. So let's see if she continues to smile. Lewis.
What are you doing? I'm alright, yourself?
Hey, I always see you smiling.
Oh my god!
You always bring such light to everyone, so I wanted to bring you a coffee and some chocolates.
Oh my god, you are a
And
chef.
I hope you have to have it.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No
Good on you,
problem.
Lewis. You're awesome. Thank you.
But I also do get bored seeing the Mercedes parade every other weekend, so I tend to cheer on other drivers more than Lewis. However, I find it fascinating how he generates such a strong response from Formula One fans, and non-Formula One fans for that matter. So let's look at some of the things we see most when talking about Lewis. Number 1. I'm not racist, but... So let's get this one out of the way first. We have to be honest here, some of the hate Lewis gets is because of the colour of his skin. Lewis is biracial, considers himself a black British man, and has spoken of the racism he faced from his early days in karting. And some people are outright racist in their comments about Lewis, and thus not worth our time in this video. But some haters may not even admit to themselves that their dislike is driven by subconscious racism. Pretty much all the points we're going to cover today can be used as excuses for not liking Lewis, when what some people really mean is, I don't like him because he doesn't look like me. We will have to touch on this topic again throughout the video, because for some people it is inseparable from their other arguments against Lewis, especially his politics. But as a black man in a predominantly white sport, it's something that makes Lewis stand out and, depressingly, a target for haters. Number 2. He's too arrogant. One of the most common reasons given for not liking Lewis is he's arrogant. This is a man who is a 7-time world champion and who is currently smashing his way through every racing record we have. If I did think he came across as arrogant, I don't think I could blame him. But I don't really see the arrogance argument. I find this a lazy accusation, given anyone listening to his team radio will have heard the countless times he thanks his team, praises the guys back at the factory, and expresses gratitude to fans. He is often the first person to congratulate a race winner or a podium place, and also the first to boost a driver who's had a bad day, as evidenced by recent attention to his tweets consoling Lando Norris after his lost lap time in the Imola qualifying, and giving respect to George Russell after his crash with Bottas. The other problem with calling Lewis arrogant is how it's so uncomfortably close to calling him uppity, a really racially loaded term, giving the impression that the person saying it thinks black people doing well need to stay in their lane and act humble and gracious and grateful in their success. I can't help but wonder if we'd hear the arrogant accusation being thrown around as much if Lewis was a white man. Number 3. He's fake. This brings us on to the next claim about Lewis, that he's fake. I mentioned in the previous section that Lewis is quick to congratulate and support other drivers, and that he's very praising of his team on the radio.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I need to say huge congratulations to Pierre, because that's a fantastic result for him. I've obviously seen what he's been through from being dropped from the top team, and now he's beat the top team. I think it's just fantastic to see him recover and to see him grow. So I am generally really happy for him.
I love hearing this and respect any driver who is so vocal in their appreciation for those around them, but there are plenty of F1 fans who feel this is really fake coming from Lewis. Now, I can actually see what they mean here. Lewis can almost be too good at congratulating people. I don't think he's helped by the fact that he always gets media attention when he does, and while cynics could argue that that's the point, I suspect it's more because of who he is. Undoubtedly, other drivers and stars of the F1 world offered words of support and advice to Lando after his amazing lap time was deleted in Imola quali, but they didn't get as much media attention. Lewis did, and was immediately called fake and attention-seeking. I think this is just something that comes with his level of fame. He also has a particular way of talking which is very measured and neutral, which I think leads people to feel he's fake. But he says everything in the same way, so I think it's more a quirk of how he speaks. Number 4. He's making F1 too political. Now this could go under the first section of this video, but I feel like it deserves its own space because while race certainly plays into it, I also think there's a "don't tell me what to do, don't push your agenda down my throat" to this complaint. Lewis has a platform where he can reach millions, and he hasn't used it much because according to him he didn't want to be focused on race, he didn't want to be the spokesman for all people of colour in sport. But when the events of May 2020 happened and a black man died beneath the knee of a white police officer, Lewis realised he couldn't not use the platform he has to speak out. I actually think he's been quite calm and moderate in his approach. He wears a t-shirt and he takes the knee before the race, and when asked about it he gives his opinions on the need for global equality and an end to racism. But he isn't shouting it into a microphone at every opportunity. He didn't get in the faces of the drivers who for their own reasons opted not to take the knee. He even got penalised by the FIA for wearing a t-shirt with Breonna Taylor's face on it, so he's not allowed to get away with expressing his political views on F1's dime. I can't help but wonder if Yuki Tsunoda or Alex Albon spoke out about the spike in anti-Asian hate crimes if they would get the same reaction. At the end of the day, F1 isn't apolitical. Fans object to the Russian takeover at Haas and protest that we shouldn't race in countries with poor human rights records. This year, the equality message from F1 includes comments on climate change, race, and diversity and inclusion, all of which carry political weight. Lewis is one of the few drivers who is more vocal on his political views, but there's a very obvious reason for that. Number 5. He's a tax dodger. This one reared its head last year when it was first suggested that Lewis would be up for a knighthood, and despite being proven false by HMRC themselves, that's Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs to our non-British viewers, it still gets bandied about. Lewis lives in Monaco, famously a tax haven for the rich and famous, and so civil servants and the British public alike started harping on about how he didn't deserve a knighthood because he didn't pay British taxes. HMRC's UK Income Tax Liability Statistics, published in 2019, puts Lewis among the top 5,000 highest taxpayers in the UK, and Lewis maintains that as he receives income from multiple countries, he does in fact pay tax in multiple countries. Does he get out of paying some British tax by living in Monaco? Oh yes. In the exact same way Sir Jackie Stewart gets out of paying some British tax by living in Switzerland, but no one has ever said he should give his knighthood back. Now, Lewis was caught up in a tax scandal when the Paradise Papers leaked. He received a tax rebate on a private luxury jet. I'm not going to get into the details here, but what he did was under the advice of his financial advisors, Ernst & Young, and not illegal. It's definitely a moral grey area, but he was far from the only person named in the Paradise Papers. Even the Queen got a mention. I would definitely prefer if he and other millionaires didn't use legal loopholes to avoid paying full taxes, but frankly, if we're going to start cracking down on that, I vote we start with Parliament first. Number 6. It's the car, not the driver. Finally, we have the claim that Lewis's success is all about the Mercedes car and not really due to any talent Lewis has. Put him in a Haas, the haters cry, and see how well he does. Put another driver in Lewis's car, they say, and see how well they do. This is a bizarre argument to me, because the best drivers tend to get put in the best cars at the peak of their careers. That's just how Formula 1 works. What's the point of having the best car if you don't have the right driver to get the best of it? Mercedes and Lewis's success has gone hand in hand because they have both been the best. While not quite in a Haas this year, the Mercedes is perhaps no longer the strongest car on the grid. With a low-rake design, the Mercedes was having to really fight to compete with Red Bull in their high-rake concept at Bahrain in the first race of the season. Lewis is having to work harder than last year when the car was far and away the best on the grid. And we've got another driver in a Mercedes. Sure, George Russell did do very well last year at the Sakhir Grand Prix when taking Lewis's seat left vacant due to COVID, But we already suspected that George was a very talented driver who would perform well in the Silver Arrow. But what about Valtteri Bottas? He's been in the same car as Lewis for years, but last weekend we saw him fighting a Williams for 9th place. He is a good driver, sure, but he cannot perform in the Mercedes in the same way Lewis does. The argument that Lewis would be nothing without the car is fundamentally flawed, because car and driver is a partnership. So there you have it, the reasons why people feel so strongly about Lewis Hamilton and why he's such a divisive character, and my rebuttals to each. It's perfectly okay to not like a driver, and it's okay to feel that way for whatever reason. Preferences, likes and dislikes are a personal thing. I like Daniel Ricciardo because he makes me smile. I didn't like Nico Rosberg because he annoyed me. Picking a favourite or a least favourite driver doesn't have to be rational, and that's okay. That's part of Formula 1. I hope you enjoyed this video. What are your thoughts on Lewis Hamilton? Do you feel strongly for or against any of the points I made? Do you live for his Roscoe spam on Twitter? Does the sight of him on his scooter in the pit lane fill you with irrational annoyance? Why is he always on a scooter anyway? Put your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to hit like and subscribe for more Formula 1 videos.